When we talk about tournament production, when we talk about setting up esports, we're talking about like you can divide this into many different phases. I know different organizations work in different ways. We have stuff like pre, on-site, and post-production. I've decided to do the post-production and do away with that for this model and call it affiliate production instead. And the reason I've done this is because most of the pre-production crew will also be involved in the post-production. This is typical for hire-ons. This is typical for recurring tournaments, and this is definitely the only way you can do it if you're running a league. So if you're running like a weekly league or something like that, you need to have a crew that works with you every single time. Shared amongst most of these jobs is it does require some level of education, and it does require some level of involvement from your crew, which is why we just talked about the payment aspect of it. As you can see here, there's a lot of jobs that straight up will require a degree. You aren't going to get an amateur broadcast technician if you want to get a good live stream going. It is not possible to get a good server technician who doesn't have an education in server technology or information technology, as it's the education is called where I'm from. When you are looking to staff a crew, when you're looking to set up this team, when you're looking for perhaps what job you want to work with, it's very, very important that you consider. I mean, it's easy for me to say what job you want to work with. It's easy for me to say what job you like. But really the most important thing here is you need to consider whether or not this is a front-loaded involvement-based job or this is a back-loaded involvement-based job. We're going to talk about this later in the lesson as well. But broadly speaking, what this means is there are some of these jobs that you might want or you might need people for, but that isn't something that you can directly just call up a school and look through the list of people who are signed up here. Similarly, if you're looking for one of these jobs, there is some stuff here that you straight up just cannot educate yourself to do, except in self-teaching, so to speak. There is no shoutcasting education. I have not heard of it, at least. There are courses that will teach you to be a better orator, a better speaker, but there is no specific shoutcasting education. So what you want to do at the moment is what is called combination work or combinatory work. What you'll find in the esports industry then is often that we have people filling multiple of these roles, which is quite fantastic because you can do that, right? You can do that if you, for example, there's a lot of hosts in the esports industry who work in affiliate production as journalists as well, because their hosting duties only like pre-production and on-site. Similarly, there's a lot of agents, just player agents that work in, let's say, team management, for example, or that work in media management, because of the fact that your job has not strict hours, but has a lesser degree of hours. Let's talk a little bit more about how this works. Is you can see here, if you take a look at this model, most of the pre-production crew should actually be under on-site crew as well, which makes a lot of sense. Shoutcasting is the speaker, the guy who sits and so Riz asked, what does shoutcasting mean? It's the person who sits and who does the broadcasting, who is commentating on the game. It is the person who will bring the hype to the arena and who will talk over the games to make sure that everyone is like following the information, keeping up with the action. Think like a football commentator, or I don't know if you guys call it soccer where you're from. Most of the world says football, so I hope that's what I'm going to be using for my references today. So yeah, as I was mentioning, football, fantastic. Okay, good. Most of this pre-production crew should be under on-site crew as well, but next, in addition to the tournaments, there's a whole bunch of work that needs to be done. We're talking a lot about media here. We're talking a lot about media. And this is because having the pleasure of working in esports is having the pleasure of working online. One of the biggest killers of of esports tournaments, esports teams that I'm seeing is not having enough reach. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to increase your team's reach and your marketing potential later on. Not today, but in a later lesson. But the most important thing I want you guys to understand in the moment is any one of these jobs likely will involve you doing not completely exclusively this job. Simply in the fact that either a tournament is run in a very, very specific time frame. So you will be working, say, a month before on site and then a month after, a couple of weeks after to sort of round out and prepare for next year's tournament. Or working in a league, you're going to be working a month before the season starts, then up until the season starts, and then during maybe like a Worlds or something like that. But there's going to be huge periods of downtime. The best for most of these jobs, the best analogy I have is think of school teachers who have extended holidays, but when they are working, they're working quite a bit. This goes for anything working on site and pre-production. This is going to be because during the downtime in the season, you will be working, but it's going to be quite small, and a lot of the work is just not possible until you get either in pre-production or get on site again. So yeah, the affiliate production, I included this because it's important for some of you. This is literally anything that isn't directly involved with the facilitation of the tournament, but is important for the overall organization. You can, in some countries, this is what's called voluntary work, but it's not voluntary. It's for the most part paid. So it's something like media, journalism. It's like people who are hired to set up the stage but aren't part of the company that runs the league, for example. A lot of companies will, or most companies that actually say, and this surprises a bunch of people, will rent out the job of setting up the stage, setting up the chairs, cleaning the facility, just because of the fact that it is so seasonal. So most of the construction and deconstruction of the physical venues is not going to be something that falls under an organization directly involved with esports. It's rather most likely going to be rented out to, for example, um, concert organizers or people who do work with what's it called, large sporting events. These kind of things are hugely involved in the esports industry as it sits right now.